We are live. I still got to add music. No Enemies Here. Danny boy is going to show me how to do that at some point in time. And I've got my computer over here and the camera over here, so I'm going to try to make sure I'm talking to the camera. So here's kind of what we're going to do today. One, I should be out mowing the yard. Wasn't ready. So I figured let's go do a live show. I just finished filming. I still got to do the editing, but I finished my review of Agents of Mayhem. Let me get B-17 off the top. We'll talk about that in a second. So I just finished reviewing this, and we can bring up some of my thoughts on that if you wish. Hopefully, after mowing, I've been jonesing to get back in with my Patreon supporters who are crewing my B-17 called HAMTAG and go fly mission 3. I also had a cool new thing I think I'm going to do. No, I know I'm going to do it. So let me say what I'm going to do. I'm basically the plane. I am HAMTAG, and the Patreon supporters are the crew. And I thought, you know what? I think I need a free reroll because B-17 goes bad. But you don't want to be able to use rerolls all the time because that ruins the tension of the game. So a tidbit, and I don't have a slide to be able to come up and thank my Patreon supporters, but I've picked up 9 new ones. If I get a 10th, which will take me to 20 Patreon supporters. Thank you guys. It's funny because on the Scotch side, we got like 180. So I just joke around that I only have 19 or 20. You're all great. If I get one more Patreon supporter, that's going to trigger me having a reroll that I can use during a mission. One reroll. My idea is that it can't be used for any individual, so I can't save somebody. But let's say we take a hit to the, I think it's a 10 when you're rolling on your wings. That's fuel tank. I would turn that in and reroll, and I hope not to get a 10. Or a hit on the bomb bay on the way out when your bombs are still in there. So I don't want to dumb it down where I've got 25 rerolls. That would suck. But if I have one, I might be able to keep my crew alive a little bit longer. And it allows me to do a little something. I think when I use it, no, I'm going to say right now, when I use it, I'm going to have to roll on the random events spot, though. So something good or something bad could stem from me even using that reroll. And then we'll get into some open general discussion. I'm going to be doing a preview video. So that's not me reviewing or anything. It's basically me saying, hey, here's Phalanx Games. They're putting out Domination from, I believe, Wing Chang, if I'm doing all that right, is a Chinese designer. I haven't researched him or anything yet. And they've tweaked his game that went by a different name a little bit. The board looks a little funky. That's all I'll say. It's not like a map. It's funky. We'll get into that later. But mine's just a preview. Not everything's final art and all that. So I don't ever review a preview copy. I wait until the game actually comes out. But it's supposed to be, again, which is kind of a new trend, World War II in an evening, or World War II, I don't know, in a couple hours or an hour or something. So we'll see how that goes. So who is in here and how are the comments going? Let me roll down here and see. So, of course, Trevor's in here. Trevor just saying, let's go. I even jumped in about 58 seconds early just for you, Trevor. We got 9 eyeballs watching. So Trevor says, hey, be safe out there, buddy. You know, we'll talk about that too. He's in San Jose, and he has about 10 friends on the police force, and it's crazy out there. I'm a sergeant on the police department. I actually work in a section of town that's mostly Hispanics and African Americans, and I'm the community policing sergeant. So I work with both communities all the time. I'll tell you a cool story. Remind me if I forget about getting sweet potato pie from Miss Mary. We'll talk about that because that's definitely the positives of what's going on. And there's enough negatives in law enforcement where you run into people having terrible or disastrous days. I like to focus on the positives. Nano Rider 426. Hello, sir. Hello. Trevor, Uva, and Gunter, from Academy Games. Eichert have talked about using Agents of Mayhem to a real world setting. What setting BattleTech to you would be awesome? Let me go through the roll call and I'll come back to that. This tactical system that's in here, they used with a training simulator board game that they did for the Marines. They weren't allowed to put that out commercially or anything, but my understanding was that took up some of their time. You can feel that in here, but it's that combined with like superheroes and jumping off buildings. So as long as you're into this wild, crazy Mayhem Legion world, and you notice the tactical, it's great. But yeah, I'd love to see this like Black Hawk Down version, or got a buddy calling, can't take that, or Ramadi or something. I don't know. We'll come back to that in a second. Sorry, that threw me. It's one of my guys at work. If he calls again, I'll have to take it. Trevor, let's see. Wait, hold on. We got the Nano Rider. Hi, Trevor. Always saying hi. Tactical strategy for Marines. I'm in. Yeah, I'm with you. Home for Christmas, World War II. Sure. Okay, so let me pop back in. I don't see any more in there. We got 10 folks. Okay, if he calls again, he's not working, so he should be okay. So let me slide this off. The tactical system here is garnered from that Marine tactical system. I would love to have this without all the superhero over the top stuff. That's fun. I think it's going to pull in some younger digital players over maybe into the analog world. We need that. I'm all for the crossovers. The way, of course, Academy Games handle the theme that comes with this is I've never played the Saints Row game, and I know this is like a subdivision of that. I've never played any of them, but it's clear what they've brought with them. So, but let's just focus on the tactical. They're clearly bringing in advantages that you have tactically when you're at an elevation. You have to climb stairs. They have a thing in here where a doorway gives you cover. That doesn't happen in, well, I don't know, maybe they're using that in the Marine one and I'm the idiot, but when I was in a light infantry years ago and now in law enforcement, you don't ever hang at a door and exchange fire. You penetrate into the room, you got a buddy right on your backside, tight. I mean tight. And as you peel in, they peel off, and you look at your corners and you dominate the room. And everything I've been trained, both law enforcement and even in the military, is you dominate the room. Now, in the military, they may throw a flashbang in or a regular hand grenade or all kinds of crazy stuff that we wouldn't do. We might use a flashbang. But you push in the room and you don't stay in that fatal funnel of the doorway. I had a buddy of mine get shot in the stomach as they kicked the door to go in. Ended okay for us. All our guys survived. If you ever want the story of the other stuff, fine. But they took the fire as soon as they breached the door and had to back out. And they couldn't push through that volume of fire, and they took hits. 2 guys got hit. So you get into the door and dominate it and own it. But I could see like Mogadishu here, where you're landing guys on top of a building with a helicopter. Guys are coming up from the bottom, and it's a capture mission. So you're not just killing everybody, because that's part of it too. Those Delta and SEAL guys are so good. They're just phenomenal. But I could see add-ons, where you've got a Ranger one, or now maybe it's a location and you're in Mogadishu, or you're over in Iraq, or you're doing something in Afghanistan. It could go wild and crazy. So I hope they bring that in. I would love to be able to be using, helicopters, or I think it was it Ramadi? No, I can't forget. The Marines had the Fallujah, where they actually were having some problems with buildings that they couldn't get into. They'd bring an M1 Abrams up, and it would just hit the building, and that would work in this system so well. And then they would go in. So you can see I get excited on that. So yeah, I like the fact that they've taken this tactical system that they use for the Marines and brought this into this. It worked well. And as long as the gamer knows they're going into this fun, wacky, fictional world of superhero-esque kind of stuff, like falling off of a building and jumping off of a building and stuff, great. But yeah, I would love to see real world tactics come in as well. All right, let's see. I'm heading out the door in a few minutes. I'm only here briefly. Cool. Thanks, Kabuki Kid. Great to have you in. Okay, thanks. Very curious. Hope whatever you sent isn't expensive or anything. Sorry. Okay. All that's between you guys. Sorry. I was trying to see that. Let's see what else. Hey, Chief. Hey. All right. I think we're good. I didn't miss any other topics. 13 people in. So let's see. Police wise. So in Wichita, Kansas, we had a rally the other day. My boss actually went to that along with the chief. So my boss would be my lieutenant. The chief and some other folks were there. I had a live HAMTAG show at 11. I told them, hey, if you're requiring me to be here, I will be here. They said only if things go bad. They did not go bad. It was more of a rally, not really a protest. And people were able to be heard. And there was some marching, and it was all very peaceful, and that's great to see how that goes. On a side note, we'll come back to some stuff. I've got Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. They're independent bottlers. It's like you have to have a subscription to them, and then you can go in and buy bottles that are cask strength. That's very cool if you like whiskey. It's like an unfiltered whiskey. You just get it as it comes out of the barrel. Shotgun Whirligig, they do phenomenal namings of these. They taste them blindly and then throw these beautiful names. And then we may try a little bit of Paul John Peated. Paul John's from India. It's a whiskey from India, and we love them. Amrut comes from India as well. They're also good. So there's whiskey that's phenomenal whiskey coming from Japan and India and Tasmania and all over the States. We're getting single malts. There's scotches that I'm partial to and independent bottlers. Let's see. Dave Doge is in. You in Texas enough, aren't you? Texas is mostly peaceful. I'm in Kansas. I'm in north of there. So if that was for me. We've been pretty good so far. I work in minority Hispanic and African American area, and every day we're trying to work on the relationship and keep the neighborhood safe. And we work with the neighborhood community leaders, our councilman that works in that area. We have Axon cameras that all came in after the Ferguson stuff. I love the body cams. The body cams, occasionally they'll catch an officer doing something bad, and I'm not comparing that. What happened in Minneapolis was criminal. You're not trained to put your knee on a neck. We're trained to maybe have it on somebody's back, but that's like for 5-10 seconds while you control them and get them handcuffed. Then you roll them on their side, pat one side down, roll them on their other side, pat that side down, and then you get them up at least on their bottom. You get them seated because positional asphyxiation, I don't know what happened in this case, but positional asphyxiation could be if you just let someone lay on the ground handcuffed, they can die. So you don't even do that. Not to mention we've had some people that are on wild and crazy drugs and they're just losing it. Sometimes buck naked, running through the streets, maybe even hurting themselves, hurting other people. And when you got to get them controlled, you get them cuffed, but especially with someone in that kind of state, you get them up either standing, as long as they're not kicking, or seated, because that allows them to calm down and to breathe, and usually to slow their heart rate down and the respiration, and just to calm things down a little bit. The video is terrible. So, I mean, no doubt. I came home and my wife asked me about it. And I said, he'll be charged with, I don't know what charges they have there, but I said murder 2 or manslaughter is what we have in Kansas. And it'll be one of those. Murder 1 is like you pre-plan it and then execute the plan and kill someone. Well, this guy didn't know that guy, but murder 2 is either like extreme indifference. You just don't care. It would be the equivalent of driving around shooting randomly into homes and then you kill someone. Well, you weren't necessarily trying to kill somebody, but extreme indifference and danger. Yeah. So craziness, but it's been very peaceful here. I'm hoping it stays that way. I've been working with African-American ministers for years now, since Ferguson. and go to their meetings. And I have friends, and my dad was a Lutheran pastor, so the clergy and I first name basis. So we've built relationships, and we did not do this thing. And I know several of them have been saying, hey, this was, in a whole nother state, but terrible, terrible thing that happened there. And hopefully we can get a level of peace. Trevor says PCP is a hell of a drug. Yeah. Yeah. And it's sometimes worse than PCP. They'll take formaldehyde, and this is any race. I'm not saying this is a particular race. They'll dip marijuana blunts or joints into formaldehyde. Sounds safe, right? And then let that dry and then smoke that. It's called wet. And it's terrible. I mean, they kind of go into that PCP mode, so it's just not good. I don't know how you get to that state, but we'll stay off drug talk. That'll get this whole thing flagged. Dave, didn't the officer and the victim work together as bouncers years ago? Wow, I didn't know that. I'm not into tune with all that. It may have been a work grudge. Wow, that would be, I didn't hear that tidbit at all. If it was something planned, then it could even be murder one. So I assumed the officer didn't know the individual, but yeah, that's weird. I hadn't heard that wrinkle. Again, so far peaceful here. I'll tell you we'll see what this is. Okay. There's a gal, an older woman who was a neighborhood president that I've worked with for years and years. Great gal, Miss Mary. And it was very nice because she said, hey, I've been working with you for years. Be safe. And then she said, here's a couple sweet potato pies for you. She made me sweet potato pie. If you haven't had sweet potato pie, it's almost just like pumpkin pie. It looks the same even. It has that sweet potato kick in it because I like a sweet potato with like a lot of butter, cinnamon, sugar. I like that every now and then, and it has that sweet potato kick. And Miss Mary's hilarious. She's older, so she'll tell me, hey, have you ever had this? I go, no. She goes, most white people haven't. I'm like, okay. She goes, you eat pumpkin pie, don't you? I go, every Thanksgiving. She goes, right. She goes, try these sweet potato pies. Tell me what you think. And I brought them home, and my wife and I were like, this is phenomenal. Very, very similar, even in consistency, to pumpkin pie. Again, with that sweet potato kick. And I told her it's awesome. My wife loves it. She gave me her business card and said, if your wife wants some, tell her to come by the house. So, and that's the relationships we're building all the time. Positive relationships. So I wish it was always like that. Is it that orangey potato pie? Yeah, it really is. You would mistake it for pumpkin pie. And maybe even after you took a bite, but then you would get those little sweet potato things in there. But it's almost the same consistency. The lawn can wait. Ramble on. Thank you, Uva. Thank you. And thank you for your plain art for HAMTAGery. That is, hopefully, it'll either fly later today or tomorrow. I've got to edit Agents of Mayhem. And an edit on a review takes a long time. I've been working on trying to keep things a little bit shorter on reviews, just because if a review is 40 minutes long, that's like 3 hours of editing, and I usually can't sit for 3 hours, so I'm piecemealing out my editing. Let's see, good song too, Ramble On. Yes. What else is on here? Kabuki Kid, she'll watch later. Great, love you, Chief. Got to run, ciao. See you, Kabuki Kid. So let me have another little more worldly gig. Got my little manga shirt on. This is my silver one. Silver and black. Let's see. What else going on board game wise? Good stuff. If you need to add bombs and bandits down, then just ask. Let's hope there's lots of revisions required. Yes, we don't go down. You may have missed when you came in. I'm going to add something on mission 3. I've got, assuming I get I've got 9 brand new subscribers. So as they come in on Patreon, they'll be filling in for the first 10 I had, taking over spots that are vacated due to player game death. I was so thrilled with all the people coming in. I thought I want to do something that makes that special and recognized and gives me something to do in the game. So I am the plane. If I can get one more Patreon supporter, that'll hit me a brand new 10. I will have doubled up my numbers. It's going to give me a free reroll during a mission. And I can't use it to interfere with like a crewman being wounded. That would be prejudicial, I think. But I can use it if the plane itself is in danger. So a hit to the bomb bay while the bombs are still on there, or to the bombs, and now it's that, does it hit and explode, or is it a miscellaneous and it doesn't do anything? I'm going to have a re-roll that I'm going to be able to use at least once during a mission. Or let's say I roll that dreaded 10 on the wings, and now I'm into the fuel tanks. I can re-roll that. Now, it doesn't mean once it's used, it's gone. So the plane still be at risk, but it'll allow me to influence a little bit more. And that's what I'm going to do when I get in there. And I might have a few other little ideas just to jazz things up a little bit. But thank you. Your plane art is great. I think I'm going to just digitally take a picture and throw that in maybe somewhere, so it comes up on the screen or something as we're playing. We'll see how I play around with that. I got to tell you, originally I said I would do this once a month, and I quickly, I think, did it the very next week. And I wasn't doing stuff like doing my reviews or playing Agents of Mayhem, or now I've got a few other games that have come in that I've got to get to. So I thought, okay, I can't do it every week. Let me do it every 2 weeks. And so I'm due, but man, I think I could probably play 2 a week and I would be happy. It's got me really excited back playing B-17 again. So it's just been a win-win just on that alone. The idea of sitting down, having my Patreon crews on the plane, playing an analog game, and that other people found it as exciting to watch as it is for me to play. I just love it. Tom Borman, been a while. Let's see. Head of the Juddalos here. Sweet. Judd is so awesome. We'll talk about some HAMTAG stuff here. That's a good segue. So I love when people come on and comment about Judd. You just keep being Judd. Judd is so unique and different, and where his mind goes is just fun to watch from my perspective. And I know it comes through the screen. And the way he can geek out on something is awesome. And he has this real playful spirit. So, and I love having that on there. It works so well with the HAMTAG. It's been fun. I want him to come over as COVID relaxes a little bit and do some in-studio filming. I like the quality of the filming better than this live. It's right now maxed out at 720p. But it is extremely convenient. He says, hey, I can jump in for an hour and then I can go do all the stuff I got to do. And there's no travel time and his games are all right there. And I said, I get it. So we're going to keep doing some of the HAMTAG lives, but I want him to come over and film some in studio as well, because I also like having him right here. The interplay is fun. But we'll do a mix of that. And I do like the sound quality, of course, is way better when we're live, and so is visual quality. But it's been so much fun. And Judd's just great. So on the HAMTAG stuff, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed doing these play through the decades. What did we have? And realizing that the 90s, my focus was on career. I was in the military and girls. So I was dating. I just wasn't gaming. And how that void, that window was in there. I guess I never really realized where that void was. I knew I came back in strong in like 2006. And so it was even nice. It was this cool feeling to come into the aughts and just meander, as I said, through the aughts and look at, as I worked my way back into this new gaming world, and how much wargaming has blossomed. However, how it also was awesome back in the 80s as well. That was a fun tribute. And then using the music on the very first episode to set the stage. And then when we did the fan side to come in with movies and TV shows, we had a ball. So those that missed it from our last fan show, We're going to take next Saturday off. There won't be a show next Saturday. It's one reason I wanted to jump in here. Although I like just coming on live impromptu and chatting anyway. Makes me feel good. And we're going to do publishers. And so I think it's June 13th, Saturday, if that's the Saturday. We're going to be doing a live show, 10 a.m. That's going to be our time on Saturdays. And we're going to start with GMT. And then we'll do the same thing. The following Saturday, we'll do a GMT fans list. And we're going to include in there our very first GMT game that we bought. We'll do this for every publisher that we have or that we do a show on. And then our most recent. So not necessarily our top 5, but our most recent. That clearly puts us in a realm, though, where we've got to have a pretty good depth of publisher. And I told them I think I could get to 5 or 6 publishers. And then our very last show in this publishers run will be, I think we'll call it like the mix and match or something. It'll be just whatever random publisher. Maybe I only have 1 game or 2 games from them, but there's one that's definitely awesome from an obscure or publisher that I don't go to a lot. So we'll end with that mix match publisher thing. Let's see, what do we got? Dinner's done. Awesome, Nano Rider. Let me have a little more whirligig, and then I'm going to have a little Indian whiskey. So that's what's to come with HAMTAG. I'm really liking this, 1 hour, sometimes a little over. The way we're not just trying to hit the list, hit and stick and get. It's probably better for viewers to do that because they just want the list. But I would much rather have this relaxed meander. So it'll hurt us on views. Don't get me wrong. It's not probably maximizing our viewer, gathering the viewers, because a lot of people will come in and they'll send comments that say stuff like, it took you 20 minutes to get to the list. Yeah, I noticed that. But was it not fun along the way? And to some, it's not. So, okay, great. But we'll continue with that same feel, that same vibe. And we'll just continue working through. I like these grouped categories. I just feel like I'm on a little mini journey, like a mini quest as we go through publishers next. And it gets my brain kicking off. So there's some of the insides of my brain. Let's see. I'm no hockey fan. I'm a motorsports. Sorry, I must have missed something in there. Sometimes I'll pop in and read your comments, and I know you're commenting among each other, which is awesome. Let's see. Let's clean out this Glen Karen. By the way, I know some of you may not be into spirits at all, whiskeys, but you'd be surprised how much the overlap. I've run some Scotch tasting events at BGG. If you like whiskey at all, go check out Scotch Test Dummies. I have a co-host there who was my partner. My very first partner when I joined the police department was on the street back in 1995. He's still on. He's a lieutenant. I'm a sergeant. Prost. Was ist los, Uwe? What is up? Trevor says, cool. Let's have some of this here. And what's fun is my co-host doesn't hate games on the Scotch show. He plays Zombicide with his kids, one of which is in college now. But he's definitely not as big into, he was bigger into Star Wars figures and stuff. So he's nerdy. But part of the shtick of the show is he's not nearly into games like I am. And I try to bring them up all the time on the Scotch whiskey show or the whiskey show. And he'll like knock it. And there's these hardcore whiskey drinkers. They don't want to hear anything about board games. So they'll tease me a little bit. I double down. And what was cool was we were doing this like Dalmore takeover during the shutdown. Dalmore has these really nice, fancy, expensive Scotch whiskeys. And we had all their American ambassador reps come on. Excuse me. And the lead guy, I can't remember his name, he was talking about how at least he was eating well. I guess his wife is a chef, and she's making all these really fancy steaks and stuff. I was like, wow. And then my co-host says, well, you like board games too? And he goes, love them. And I ask, and he goes, because he doesn't see this show, he goes, well, you probably don't know what it is. And I go, I got a bunch. Give me a shot. And he says, Gloomhaven. And I go, yeah. Yeah. And it was right as Frosthaven was breaking all the Kickstarter records. And I was like, well, Frosthaven's on Kickstarter now and just broke 7 million. And he goes, what? And he knew exactly. He was like, you are. I said, yeah, heck yeah. So that was fun. A lot of crossovers. Let's see. Ooh, Nano Rider's got an Ardbeg. Ooh, the Trey Van. I know it's or no, the Arnom Beast is different. The Trey Van is different. Sorry. I've got that one down there. That's a nice one. I can never say the Gaelic right. They are my buddy in Scotland and had to oh shoot. Well, it's Roy, but I'm trying to remember. I've just blanked on the town he's in. Stupid. He told me how to say Trey Van and some of the other ones. What's the phonetic spelling for the beast? Argnom Beast. Let's see. Do you find that wargaming, this is from Thom Borman, is becoming more and more solo experience? Okay. So for me in 83, it was pretty much almost all solo back then. And I was looking for solitaire design games. And I got lucky that B-17 had just come out and then Ambush. And I just was playing those to death. And I would Shanghai some buddies over every once in a while and have Storm over Arnhem. And they'd go, this is a hard game. And I'd go, uh-huh. And they wouldn't want to play it again. So then I started soloing those. So for me, it's been a solitary affair quite often. Really until I got into my current age. And then I've had some guys, I had a buddy that used to come over every Monday or every other Monday and we would play. And then on the reverse Monday, I would be filming or doing something on either the whiskey or the board game show. And then I've had some groups where we had this, it was before the kids came along. I had these Friday groups where I would have 8 war gamers over here and we'd be playing Pacific Typhoon or Atlantic Storm, and man, was it a blast. So I would say what board games are doing, war games are doing really well is making sure that things will also work in a solitaire function. The other thing that's really works well, but I haven't been on early on, I was doing a lot of Vassal when it was like on version 3 or 2 or something. And then I got into a board game group real heavy, playing mostly a lot of Euros and different things and Ameritrash and some war games. And I just lost how to work Vassal. And I don't really have the time with all my shows and stuff now to get in and learn that new skill. So I would say it's really kind of broadened a little bit. But I do think I've talked to some war gamers who are graying out, 50s, 60s, some into their 70s, and they like being able to just sit down and kind of play through Hunters or Hunted by themselves on their own time and pick it up and leave it. And I get that. Let's see. Okay, down on the cover. Yeah, you're right. R.A. Nam Beast. Oh, okay. John Nolan, 18 eyeballs in, by the way. It's almost impossible to find players here in Florida. Vassal is the only option. Really? The only other thing I would do with that, which is what, which might work, is if you look on BGG, you can search by city. And that's how the war game or the board game group found me originally. Marshall Phillips sent me a message saying, hey, you're in Wichita, we're starting up a club. And that was pretty early on, like 2004. I was like, or 2005. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go meet with some strangers. And then luckily our local paper did an article around Christmas on all the new board games. And it was again, Marshall Phillips, happens to be an engineer at Spirit. And I thought, that's that guy that reached out to me. And it's so weird that now that I'd seen his name in there, I reached back out to him and then I started gaming with the group. And boy, was that awesome. At our heyday, we were getting like 30 some people, 25 to 30 showing up for a game night and playing all kinds of stuff. Really fun. Nathaniel Robinson, hi Bart, and chat people. Woo-hoo. So, reach out there with all the Florida stuff. I don't know where you're at, but like my sister lives in Tampa And she had a neighborhood group where she was actually teaching folks in the neighborhood how to play. And there was like this 14, 15-year-old kid that was always coming over and just playing games at her house with her daughters and then other neighbors and stuff. And the parents were like, what's Jimmy doing over at your house? She's like, playing games. Come on over. You can play too. Let's see. Yeah, Nana Rider. Yeah, it's hard here in Denmark to find players. So that's too bad. By the way, I've been following the news on how Denmark is approaching the COVID-19, and I will tell you this: I love it. I love the fact that different countries will try different things. And the police department. There was some talk about how we might have to build herd immunity, and because this coronavirus may be around a long time, and who knows when they're going to have a vaccine. And if you can't get, if you get the herd immunity, it actually would allow a cop to work without the fear of getting sick or catching a worse version of it or something. Now, we've had very little outbreaks of that in Kansas. Right in Wichita, we've had a few. In our county, we've had, I think we're up above 100 and some folks that have passed. But I've been watching how Denmark's doing their thing. Or no, sorry, it's not Denmark. It was Sweden. My apologies. Sweden was doing it different. I don't know how Denmark's doing it. So I apologize for that. Let's see. What else we got here? I'm sorry you can't find players in Denmark. Sorry, what do we got? That dram looks tasty. It's pretty good. Very good. Raster's in. Woo! Raster actually was on our Scotch show before he pulled over and found the board game side. John Connor's in. Way to go. Uwe Beck. Anyone tried Tabletop Simulator? I have not. Raster, how do we get the combo of a half Scotch test dummies on bonding with board games? Yeah, I like bringing them over on both sides. Matt Chestnut, Swedish citizens did a good job of policing themselves. Brazil, not so much. Sure. We won't get into the whole COVID controversy. Yeah, Raster, anytime I can mix what I like to say is cardboard and whiskey, it's a good day. Raster says, actually, this is interesting. Cool. So let's see, what other topics? What am I at? 37. I won't go past an hour, but if anybody has any questions, anything, it could be game related, whiskey related, or even police related, I will answer them as honestly as I can. Uva says, politics and Scotch are a dangerous combo. They definitely could be. I usually leave all that. If I'm playing games or drinking whiskey, I could care less about the politics. I don't find that joyful or pleasurable. And I like to focus on that which is in front of me. So, and I will tell you this, there's a bonus beyond that, is cops can get rather insular in their friend groups. In other words, they start just hanging out with cops. That's not good. You want to hang out with a wide spectrum of people, in my opinion. My wife and I, we attend a church. We have friends there. I like my whiskey friends, and I love my board game friends. And they're so wacky and different. Matter of fact, it's different in all places. And I've got some really, I lean more conservative, libertarian. The conservatives, I drive crazy with my libertarian ideas. And for the liberals, I come off conservative. I'm always like, what? But I do have some of that. Hold on. So I'm all over the place, and there's nothing I like better than hardcore conservatives thinking I'm too libertarian or liberal, and then liberals thinking I'm too conservative. And board gamers, everybody just thinks I'm a nerd. So I'm like, yes, now you've got it. That's exactly right. And I love people that are uniquely different. It can get so boring. I don't like when people are trying to fit into these niches. I like when people stand out and say, this is who I am. This is it. I'm wearing a manga shirt, drinking whiskey, playing board games. Whoop. So, and that makes me weird, and I love it. Let's see. I'm going to have to clear my throat again. Whiskey will sometimes catch. Let's see. Where did we go? Let me check comments. Let's see. Tony, cops like to hang out with traffic violators. Well, everybody violates traffic. I will tell you, I've been to some cities and places, Puerto Rico, where traffic's crazy. And I'm like, man, this is unsafe. You need a little bit of traffic support to keep things safe. It makes you appreciate that. But I've never been a traffic cop. That was not an area I wanted to work in. Let's see, Raster Insular. Kind of just learned a word because I sort of don't know what that means. Insular, just staying in your own little niche, your own little group, and you don't step out of the comfort zone. That's how I say it. Maybe that's not the full correct definition, but I think it's close, or at least that's my idea. I like to, even in high school, I remember I was tall, not the most athletic because I was too tall, but I had a lot of friends that were into sports. They were kind of jocks. But I remember one of my friends in that like athletic side saw me talking to this buddy of mine I'd known since elementary school, who loved working on motors, engines. He was just he had that mind, that mechanic mind, and he loved it. But he wore a leather jacket. He didn't care about his appearance so much. And he came over and said, "Why are you talking to Tucker? Tucker's like a grease monkey." I go, "Tucker's awesome." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, he's so cool." And they were like, "Come on." I remember thinking, what's this guy missing? Tucker was great. And that was the first time I realized that some people, they're not comfortable, like even talking to people that aren't like them. And I'm like, that was weird. And then I was kind of the weird oddball because I talked and got along with everybody. Somebody said that you're friends with all these different groups. I remember there was this girl, Beth. I won't say her last name. Beth went to my church, very smart, attractive. And her father was the resident agent in charge, the senior FBI agent in our area. So he's cool because I knew I wanted to be a cop. We get into high school, and all of a sudden, her and her best friend, Marnie was gorgeous. They went goth. The white base makeup, the black eyeliner, the black lipstick, the black clothes. And I didn't see as much of Beth, but Marnie ended up in my English class. And she was rebelling, but super smart. And I talked to her. First of all, I was like, Marnie's gorgeous, even as goth. And one day she came over and said, me and another buddy of mine, Wes Wade, were in there and we're always cutting up. And she goes, "It's so nice being around you guys." And I don't know what kind of negative emotions she had going on, but I ran into her later in life. And she was like, "It was such a joy being with you guys in that class." And she goes, "A lot of my friends quit being my friends as soon as I went goth. And here I come meet you, who I didn't really know before, and you're treating me just like I'm normal." I'm like, "Hey, we're all different." So, and she was like, "Well, thank you." And she was no longer in the goth mode. Not that that would have mattered, but it was just a phase. But she was awesome. Let's see. So they can be friends. That's why they pull them over. Denmark is doing great. We are opening restaurants in nearly all the jobs. Awesome. Oops, it jumped on me. Sorry. Nathaniel. How to find players is really too narrow a concern. We should instead ask how to grow the community. I agree, of gamers, which would involve designers, publishers, not just players. I will tell you, that's why I've had some board game or war gamers kind of frown on this, because it is over the top. It feels a little youthy. Now, it is a little youthy. It's got this, the guy giving the middle finger and all this kind of stuff. Excuse me. But that is exactly how you draw people into the hobby. So you get somebody. I used to play a lot of first-person online shooters. Day of Defeat was a World War II mod from I'm going to forget, Counter-Strike. And I was doing tons of that. And the idea that if we could pull somebody over that learns how to play analog games and get inside that headspace, that is how you grow the hobby. So I love seeing something that reaches out to other folks and pulls them into a tactical war game. Let's see. Raster, bonding with board games. I say our choices are not and then left, right, they're actually like 23-dimensional space. I agree 100%. My viewpoint is 1 point in that ND space. Perfect, and raster's an engineer. And I love the way you talk, sir. No, I agree 100%. And on the show, I don't even talk my libertarian views because they'll offend. And I'm not here when we're doing the show, whether it's whiskey or board games, I'm not here to offend in any manner. We're here to talk about the specific thing. I'm not afraid if somebody says, oh, you're kind of libertarian. Yeah, but I don't go into it because then some people get it just, you know, if it makes people uncomfortable, I'm not here to make people uncomfortable. And libertarian is, well, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, and I'll miss the exact quote, but if it was like, if it doesn't break my leg or pick my pocket, then it shouldn't be illegal. Now, that being said, as a cop, whatever the legislature makes as laws, I follow. My job isn't to make laws or interpret them. It's to just follow the ones on the books. Because I've had people ask me that before too. Well, how do you follow X law? Well, it's on the books. Let's see. Card conquest system. UVA. I managed some chess players into SPI's sniper. They were hooked. Exactly. Nano Rider. That is what Richard Rado Ham says. Pull people into the hobby. You betcha. I love Rado. I've been on a show with him on occasion. Fun guy. And he was a video game designer. So he gets it. Game space is game space. And once people realize that, matter of fact, we had a game school developing area that was in town. And I think I read online too, so maybe I'm mixing them, but they used to have them design a regular, like simple board game to understand how mechanics work and things, just so they understood game design. And they didn't decide, oh, you know, you're getting all this 3D rendering in the way of your game. Make a good game and then do what you need to do in the digital space. Starship Troopers by Heinlein is a great libertarian read. Oh, it is, sir. And I did way back when it was on, it might have been Amazon's book review page. I used to go there and read reviews to find books that maybe I hadn't read, and I hadn't read any of his Heinlein stuff. And I saw all these polarizing reviews. It was 5 stars, loved it, best book I've ever read. 1 star, this book is terrible. How in the world? And I'm like, oh, I've got to read this. And I love it. I love that book. It's idea that in order to be a citizen, anybody can be a citizen, but you had to join the military and do 2 years. But anybody could do it. So they had like a quadriplegic that was in a wheelchair that was doing certain things. And there was a gentleman that was, I believe, of real low IQ that worked as like a janitorial service, but they became citizens, and only citizens can vote. Now, again, this isn't my theory. This is Starship Troopers Heinlein, and it was just an interesting libertarian. That might have been the first time I was even introduced to some of those libertarian views, other than reading Thomas Jefferson and some of the different stuff there. Yeah, Rado made Siphon Filter. Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. Forever War is an excellent follow-up to Starship Troopers. I didn't know that. I will have to look into that. Let's see. Charles Latora, but make the publishers hire someone professional to write the rules, write the first one. I agree. Judd says that all the time. You might have a phenomenal game designer, but they don't know how to do a rule book. And I agree. That is something where, Academy Games does a great job on the rule book. And I love the way it spoons out the basic. Well, the basic game plops, and then you can spoon out extra things like in Conflict of Heroes. They don't do it here in Agents, really. But in Conflict, the advanced rules are as they move, they get into artillery or indirect fire or vehicles or whatever. What a great way to play. So, and learn. Raster, folks who love board games, what's the general feeling on chess? I play chess online a bit too much. I love chess. I'm not good at it. I don't think deep enough in my moves, but my son had seen an old chessboard I had and wanted to play. And there was nothing more fun than sitting down with him and just showing him how each of the pieces moves and some of the basic concepts, and then playing. And it's just such a nice interactive game. I'm not smart enough to get into the depth of the play, and I don't memorize opening moves or anything like that, but I enjoy it. I love backgammon as well. Love backgammon. I've got a Go set, but I've never actually learned Go. And I've had a couple folks online tell me, hey, Chief, we can go to this, go.com or whatever, and I can teach you. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not ready. And I know you can teach just a small area, and then that's the whole, you can expand. But I love the old games. Mancala. Let's see. And all video games, this is Conflict Magazine, start off as paper game. They will tell you paper is cheaper than code to fix everything. I love it. Yeah, exactly. Charles Latoria chess. I'm extremely bad at it. Been years, all good and fun. Yeah, me too. Conflict, Forever War by Joe Haldeman, a Vietnam vet, has been in my collection since I was a kid. Really? I'm going to have to check out Forever War. Raster, backgammon is actually a heck of a lot of fun. I love it. I played it with my dad. I never did that whole doubling dice or the betting, and I know that's where a lot of the joy comes from in that. And I wish I had some kind of points we were betting or something, and maybe you got a free dinner or something, but I never got into the doubling die, but I love just playing backgammon. I've got a set somewhere and it got stored away and I can't find it. My boy asked to learn it and I couldn't find it. Uwe Old Man's War series. I think I read the first one in that. Is also very good and much like Forever War. Nano Rider, I played chess as a kid, but thought it was boring. Then I found wargaming. That's good too. I got to admit, I love my tactical. I'm not so much into the strategic war games or even operational. Tacticals, definitely my jam, to sound like a kid. And I love small level tactics, right down to ambushes, man-to-man tactics with a squad of 8, up to just running a squad or up to running a platoon, maybe company-sized stuff. I just love it. Let's see, we're at 52 minutes, 34 eyes. I plan on shutting this down at about an hour, so about 8 minutes left. I still do have to mow. So, Chief, what's your favorite war film? This will be a bit of a cheat. Band of Brothers, which is more of the miniseries HBO. There's just nothing better. That whole thing worked, and the way each of the directors got to jump in and do the little piece, and I'd read the book. Saving Private Ryan is great. The opening scenes on the beach, that's great too. Those would probably be it. There's a few other ones that are good, but I just love Band of Brothers. So, and they're working on, they did Pacific War, which is rough. Everything in the Pacific is rough. And I didn't enjoy it as much. It dealt less with the group that you followed, more like the individuals, and there were island hopping, and it's hard to follow. But they're working on a 8th Air Force. I think it's going to be called the Mighty 8th or something. And oh my God, that should be phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to that. What about Pacific? Yeah, you just heard some of my thoughts. It's good, but it's just so painful to watch even. Oh, and the source material they used, I'm forgetting the names now, but it was 2 different books, and they were more from the private class, whereas if you notice when you're watching Band of Brothers, you're seeing the command structure, Winters and the senior NCOs and the officers, although not always good, and the other NCOs as well. I just felt like following that group through multiple things, whereas in the Pacific, the island hopping, you can't really do that. Still great. Flags of Our Fathers was great. And then Letters from Iwo Jima was phenomenal. Let's see. Band of Brothers was awesome. As I recall, at the very end, it made water leak out of your eyes seeing the actual guys. Oh, yeah, definitely. Waterloo. Hey, Greg Schmicken's on. Hey, Greg. Let's see. Favorite war film, The Enemy Below. Always stop to watch it when it is on. Also free on YouTube. Very nice, Greg. Uva, it was painful to watch. Agreed. Conflict. Anyone who likes weird war stories, check out the movie Outpost. I have seen it. Just jumped on me way too many times. Outpost. I guess I haven't seen that one. I'm thinking of, oh, maybe I was thinking of Outland or something. There was one with Sean Connery, I think, where it's like a remake of High Noon, where he's on a space station, and that one's fun, but it can't be what you're talking about there. Favorite movie was Das Boot, says Raster. Nathaniel says not enough love for the old war films. Sand Pebbles is the best. Uwe Beck, Nazi zombies. Letters from Iwo Jima sends shivers down my spine. Yeah. There's a question for Greg. We'll let him handle that. All right, where are we at here? 55, 25, 32 eyes. We actually got a lot more people now than when we started. Makes sense. We'll wrap up. This is a good peated. The peat's real soft here. It's a little more ashy, kind of like the morning after a campfire. For those that don't know, peated whiskey has a lot of smoke and ash flavors. Sometimes you'll get creosote, which some people hate. Oddly, I like that, and touches of tar. My favorite ones are definitely the Ardbegs, which sit over here, and from them I get a lot of leather and tobacco notes, and I've never smoked, or, well, I think I chewed tobacco twice. That didn't go well, and I never did that again. But the flavors that come through are just phenomenal, whiskey-wise. Let's see. Ardbeg is a bit rough. It definitely, trust me, they call me a peat head now. It would be like being the grognard in war games. But when I first started, I did not like peat. It was just too offensive, and it overpowers. And then I had a couple that really ushered me in, and then I went all in. So, but I get it. Some people like it right away. Some people hate it forever. And some people come to it somewhere in between. Cross of Iron for Uva. All right. 3 minutes, and then we will wrap this up. Again, I got to do editing. I got to get this edited. The film I just shot today, I want to get back and play this. I'm hoping tomorrow, the third mission with my Patreon crew. I'm going to be working in my free dice roll there, as long as we pick up one more subscriber. And then I got to get this preview filmed. I've got to get it done by, I think, June 12th. It goes live on Kickstarter. Chinese designer, if I have it right, Wei Cheng. The board looks very weird on that one. And I've got the rules digitally, and I've got to get in and read them and then get the pieces on the table, and we'll see how it goes. But again, it's a preview, not a review. Nothing in this thing is final. And so my preview is simply, this is what it is. This is how it works, and done. And then if I get the final version after the Kickstarter, sometimes I'll do a review then. Let's see. Couple minutes. We Were Soldiers. We Were Soldiers is good, but the book was phenomenal because it was We Were Soldiers and Young. And the book or the movie jumbles it around too much for me. So if you read the book, it's phenomenal. Bonding with board games. Bart, maybe I can admit it here. Lately, I pour a dram of blend over ice instead of a single malt. No, it's great. I like blends, especially on hot days, and I like my bourbons on ice, especially, again, as we move into the warmer months. And I like how it changes the flavor a little bit as it melts. I generally won't put ice into my single malts. You're right. But there's nothing better than a real flavorful bourbon as that ice cube melts and changes the flavors, and it tinkles a little bit. Tinkles? That's maybe not the clink clangs. I don't know what you want to call it. Tinkle sounds wrong. Let's see. These chat sessions are awesome, Chief. Whoops, it just rolled on me. Hold on. Do repeat it if you have the cycles. You bet. You know what? I love just popping in kind of randomly every once in a while with nothing too specific to cover. Raster, Bart, maybe I can admit. Oh, sorry, that's his deal. Greg, starting online Wellington in an hour. Very cool, Greg. Let's see. David, oh, that's an Uva. Nano Rider, but I really like The Longest Day. You know what? I love that too. I really do. I remember, I think they even played that in my social studies class when we got to World War II. And it might have been the first time. No, I'd seen it before, even then. Oh, the guys hung up in the trees or on the steeple that just get machine gunned. I was like, ugh. Van Ryan's Express and The Great Escape. Dave, the scene in We Were Soldiers where the Japanese soldier does a long bayonet run, or well, there, if we were soldiers, it'd be Vietnamese towards Mel Gibson, and he's on the phone, and then at the last second, or he turns around and shoots him. Yeah, the movie's interesting. I love how the one guy plays the helicopter pilot that just kept coming in and supplying him. That was a great scene. I think he later got the Medal of Honor, like after that movie came out and they realized what he had done. Bourbon on Ice is nice. See how I changed it there? Fury is good for a watch time to time. Yeah. Over back, I love armored fighting vehicles, especially World War II German AFVs. I wish we could get, I don't know if they're ready yet, but I would love to see a movie from the German perspective in the air war. I think that would be neat. I would love to see a movie from the German perspective or both in Stalingrad. Maybe even I would love a miniseries. But I'm weird because I think they need to come back and do a continued Netflix series on Wolverines, Red Dawn. If they came back and did it in the 80s period piece, and it was maybe a different set of Wolverines or something, I don't know. I would love that. 80s, that whole thing. Someone did tell me they're doing a brand new release of the Twilight. I almost said struggle. Twilight 2000 RPG. I love that back in the 80s that, World War III happens. A bunch of U.S. troops are stuck in Poland and all they want to do is get back to the States, maybe, or maybe you just want to stay there and, I don't know, be a warlord or whatever. I heard they're doing a remake of that. I've got to catch that on Kickstarter when it comes up. Stalingrad is out there. There is a Stalingrad thing. I also watched a real cool deal from Russia, movie that was called T-34, and the visuals are stunning. It's great. It's got subtitles. It's a Russian movie. German Band of Brothers. Yeah, something with the Fallschirmjäger would be interesting. Maybe call it Crete. Let's see. We're at a 102. 29 folks on. I'm going to wrap it because I either need to edit or mow. And it's probably mow. We've had so much rain where I'm at that my grass is getting tall. I need to go take care of it. There's a movie on Stalingrad from the German perspective, released in 93 called Stalingrad. Okay, I'll check that out. Twilight 2000. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Was that post-apocalyptic? Yes. Again, you're stuck in like Poland, and it was a conventional war that goes hot. And they'd been in conventional war for some time when it goes hot. And they had little modules and things. It's very fun. YouTube for German perspective. Okay. I'll have to look that up too. All right. I'm going to sign out. Thanks, guys. This is awesome. I love popping in. Again, if you like the whiskey, go check out Scotch Test Dummies. We try to have a lot of fun over there. We occasionally throw in live shows, and there'll be more board game stuff coming. Stalag 17, you betcha. All right. And see you guys.